Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collected podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP, episode 580. We're live tonight. It is Thursday, May 23rd. I'm Lucas. I'm joined tonight by Rick.
Hey!
And Phil.
Thank you for joining our Memorial Day episode, folks. We are going to honor the fallen Brawn and Ratchet, who are about to get new toys. In all seriousness, don't want to make light of Memorial Day, but yeah, we are getting some dead Autobots again.
Oof.
And a dead Rick. I just killed Rick.
Oh no, poor Rick.
Rick just swallowed a cicada.
Oh God! Oh, you just reminded me how much fun it is to play with dying characters.
Yeah,
I love recreating those scenes when they die over and over again.
and
they have those expressions of sheer terror frozen on their face.
I've not been a fan of those figures when they first got announced and released, and then I opened up the Ironhide and started posing him. It was just like dead, slouched over with the big blast effects coming out. I was just like, all right, there's some morbid amusement I get from this.
They're dead, dying Transformers are the new Shattered Glass. Instead of repainting it, we'll just remold it a little bit so that they can die.
Do you think we'll get Windcharger and Wheeljack?
Gosh, I hope so. I hope we get beat up Megatron and beat up Insecticons. I'm really thinking that's the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive instead of the 3 Insecticons, but they're all like beat up and dying.
I kind of do want to kick back with his head smushed.
I didn't even think about that. Like, I don't know, when they released the first set, and I guess they released that Dead Prime or whatever a while back, but like they released the set with Prowl and Ironhide, and I feel like no one really was that impressed by it. Like, it didn't seem to sell well. Like, it went on pretty good clearance and whatnot. So I was actually pretty surprised that they decided to continue this.
Well, we've had Sleep Mode Optimus now.
Yeah, Sleep
Then
Mode,
we had
yeah.
Prowl and Ironhide.
Right.
And now we have Ratchet and Brawn. We need Windcharger. We need Wheeljack. We need Megatron. We need the Insecticons. And we need like a movie series Trax, because he ran across the screen. And the box art is just his legs running across the scene.
I mean, we did get a Studio Series 86 Snarl.
Exactly. Well, he was seen more in like 2 scenes. Trax, you only saw Trax in 1 scene, and you only saw his legs.
Yeah. And we need a 3rd attempt at a Studio Series wheelie.
And then we need a Titans class Springer.
Is the Titan class Springer just like the same size as the Voyager Springer, but it just comes with extra like bits?
Well, that's why the Nemesis gets remolded into Springer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So Lucas, we have a very interesting topic tonight, and I'm glad Phil is on the discussion with me, because I think in our private talks, I think Phil thinks that I have an opposing view, but in fact, I do not.
You have an
I'm
opposing
glad.
view.
I'm glad you're on for this topic too, Rick, because I think you have a very unique view. You have an inside baseball vantage point with this, and I'm looking at this more just from the business environment versus the inside corporate environment.
All right, so let's get into it. Lucas, break down the topic, baby.
So the topic is Transformers licensing their brand out to other companies, right? That's pretty much essentially what we're talking about. So it started with crossovers. We've had a lot of crossovers, but then lately, we had our, especially the Mattel crossover. Obviously they've licensed it out, like where Robertson is doing Transformers figures or transforming figures. We have collaborations with Playmates for the Turtles and things. So that's somewhat the topic there. So, Rick, what do you think?
All right, so before we get into crossovers, let's talk about the licensing deal. So Lucas says, yes, this is a good business opportunity, right? I don't agree with Lucas. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I agree with Lucas. However, it should have been done 10 to 12 years ago. Lucas was of the, I believe it was, not Lucas, but Phil, who was of the mindset that they were riding high on the movie 10, 12 years ago. So, F all, right? We're doing our own thing. Is that correct, Phil?
Yeah, that was me who said that in our group chat. Chat.
So you gotta so Hasbro is in Rhode Island. Right next door is Lego, and they were constantly, probably to a certain degree still are, poaching people from each other, right? Because there's only so many people who are in the toy industry, and these two major companies happen to be right next door to each other. So Hasbro, Lego, always, cherry picking people off each other. Hasbro wants to get into the brick building business because Lego is very profitable. So Hasbro says, we're going to partner up with this guy in Germany, and we're going to create Creo, which is, I believe, comes from the Latin word of create. So we're going to do Creo. And as we know, Creo is not really a thing.
Well, first they did what was it? Built to Rule.
Built to Rule was solely a Hasbro. All right, Built to Rule was solely a Hasbro initiative. Creo was a partnership with someone who already had an inventory of molds available to create bricks from. So Hasbro's investment was minimal because they only had to create certain tooling: heads, fists, feet, certain car parts, etc. Mm-hmm. Built to Rule comes and goes. Creo comes and goes. Hasbro, in the meantime, is developing a whole huge Star Wars toy line that is like the Hero Smashers of Transformers. You take it apart, you connect it, you take the wings off the TIE Fighter, you can slap them on your X-Wing. They showed it at Toy Fair. It was millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars spent. When I mean north of $45 million. Lego sees this and they're like, no. We have the license exclusively for buildable Star Wars toys. So Hasbro is then forced to scrap the whole toy line that they've already tooled up. that they've already started packaging samples of. They already have practically final copies of, which means the molds are made. You just got to press the button in the factory and start making these things. So now Hasbro's really mad because, boy, we can't find a way into the Lego market. We had the Star Wars line. We had to scrap it. They keep, ripping people out of our staff. So there was a real feel that Lego was the enemy, even though a lot of guys like me love Lego, collect Lego. Yeah, it was out in the open. Oh yeah, I have that Lego set. Sure, it was okay to buy it, but company wise, it was a huge rivalry, at least on the Hasbro side. So to me, it is amazing to see that Hasbro. When I was there, I had a fight to get female characters made. New team comes in. Hey, here's a whole combiner. Hey, you know what? New policy every 6 months, brand new RC. All right. As people come and go and new teams come on board, they have new ideas of what the brand should be. So a new team comes and they're like, we shouldn't be trying. Now, back up a second. As, say, the last 10, 15 years has progressed, the teams have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So, like, say, back in the day, maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the Transformers team would be 18 people. Now it's down to 4. A lot of stuff is getting sent out to freelancers because you don't that's a way of keeping your overhead down. Why employ someone and pay for insurance and 401k and I have all these issues when you can just freelance it to someone and pay them a flat fee, and hey, they only get the job if they're the lowest bidder. Okay. So as time has progressed and the savings initiative has taken effect and cost reduction has happened and profitability overall due to lagging sales, because of price of oil, price of parts, of plastics, of shipping, world economy, whatever the factors may be, profitability is going down. Cost saving is at an all-time high. It's an imperative that must be, worshipped. Somebody at Hasbro says, hey, you know what? How can we make a quick buck without doing anything? Let's go to Lego and let them have the Transformers license. Let them take the risk of molding things and marketing things and producing things. We'll just sit back and collect royalties. All we got to do is approve the item. That's it. We just got to sign off on it and say, yep, approved. We like what you designed. Done. Okay. Here comes Hasbro. We're going to do a whole car line. We need to get into the Hot Wheels market because that's a whole huge set. That's its own aisle at Walmart. That's half an aisle at Target. We need to get into that Hot Wheels Matchbox market. We're going to do, what was it, Speed Stars? What was the name? RPMs. The Rip'ems. RPMs. We're going to make our own Hot Wheels. Well, we all know how that ended up. So Hasbro, over time, profitability down, saving money is important. What else could we do? Let's license. Let's go to Mattel. Let's let them do it. Let's take our most important brand, our evergreen brand, more so than Star Wars, and have another company do it. Company that you can say was the rival to Hasbro. If they had a rival, it's Mattel. More so than Lego. So now Mattel's producing Transformers Hot Wheels. And not only are they producing, not only can Lego make a much better Optimus Prime in Lego form than Hasbro can, they made it so that it transforms without you having to take it apart. Not only can Mattel make a better Hot Wheel than Hasbro can, they made a Hot Wheel that's die-cast metal and transforms. Hasbro couldn't do that. And Mattel sold out of those Optimus Primes in less than an hour. So, yes, I think it's surprising to me that Hasbro is doing it, knowing the history of all the companies involved. It makes sense that they're doing it. I'm okay with them doing it because these other Lego, Mattel are making great products. And I love the fact that I can get an official Lego Transformer, official Lego Hot Wheel. But they should have put their egos aside and everybody come together 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago and say, hey, let's all make peace. And let's all share. You know what, Hasbro? We should have a transforming He-Man. Yeah, you know what, Mattel? We should have an Optimus Prime Hot Wheels car. Everyone should have come together and made peace 10 years ago. It's long overdue.
So, I mean, Rick, I just feel like I think, again, I come back to the point that you stated already that 10 years ago, Hasbro didn't need to do this. Toys R Us was still around. 10 years ago, so we're 2014. The Bayverse movies hadn't completely imploded yet. And even when they did, implode, to use my own word, they were still making billions of dollars. They weren't selling the amount of merch or selling the amount of tickets that they did with the first two or three, but they were still a fairly big moneymaker for Hasbro. And then you had Toys R Us go down. Then you had the pandemic, which actually kind of created a surge of buying for toy companies because people had a lot of income and free time, and they filled it with hobbies like toys. And now we're on the other side of that, and now we're in a world where Toys R Us doesn't exist. We had the pandemic surge of toy buying and collectible buying, and now we're in this kind of pandemic purge where people are jettisoning some of the stuff that they had bought. We saw last year how many things ended up at clearance at Ross and other discount retailers. And it wasn't just Hasbro, it was across the board. You saw toy companies having a lot of stock that they just had surplus of. So I think what you have now is an environment where you don't have as many people buying toys. We've talked about this. Lucas, you've brought it up in terms of your boys. They'd much rather spend their money on video games. My older son is starting to tip into that a little bit. He spends more money on Pokemon cards and video game stuff these days than he does on physical toys.
Well, and luckily with that, I know Hasbro is trying to focus on creating and partnering with a AAA game studio to create a AAA game. How is that development going?
Or are you talking about Transformers Reactivate?
Yeah.
I mean, we might see it sometime in this decade. I don't know.
Potentially, right?
Yeah.
No, but
yeah, that's
I was
going to be
add
another NetDragon, or it's just never gonna come out.
I was gonna add to that too. I mean, I feel like, there's just such a changing demographic with the toy industry in general. I mean, there's obviously a shrinking of, you know, the products overall. Like, I'm sure that you probably see. I just assume, and I guess I don't have numbers at hand for this, that like the industry is not what it was, you know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, like whatever. It just continues to kind of go down. But I also think that the demographics of the consumers are completely different too. I mean, and I don't know, like I would say if you're talking to Hasbro, that is their primary demographic now kids, or is it collectors? Like, and I would say that's probably about 50-50 now, and it is ever shrinking. The kids part is shrinking, and the collector part is you know, going up. And so I would say with that, that's where everyone is just trying to look at what is the next hot collector thing that we can put out to, you know, satisfy, to get those guys to buy the next, you know, big thing.
Well, I think, Lucas,
you know,
you make a good point, but I would add a different layer to this than the idea of collectors versus kids. I think those are still two of the main groups, but think about who's buying the toys for kids. It's parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and whatnot. So you still have people our age going to the toy aisle to buy things for birthday gifts and for for Christmas presents and so on and so forth. But you know what I feel like these toy companies have been doing over the last several years are putting things out on the shelves that will appeal to that dad who's walking down the aisle to buy something for his son for his birthday. The dad's gonna be like, "Oh crap! They just made X. I always wished they'd make X when I was a kid. I'm gonna get this for my son." So they're appealing. They're trying to get to the kids somewhat through the parents. You know, I feel like more so than some of this has been done in the past, because the parents are of the age where, hey, we all grew up with this sort of thing, whether it was Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, Transformers, you name it. You know, we're at the point where, you know, even the kids who were playing with Pokemon back in the day are adults now.
So you made me think of something, Phil. A lot of parents and grandparents are going to the toy aisle to buy gifts, to buy toys to give to grandkids, Christmas, birthdays. But 20, 30 years from now, the kids who are growing up with video games and Pokemon cards and Magic cards, when they grow up, are they going to be going to the toy aisle, or are they going to be going to the card aisle and buying cards and video games and electronics rather than buying toys for their kids? They're like, "Oh, wow, they made a Lara Croft Tomb Raider in space. Wow, I wish I had that as a kid. Hey, I want that."
But that's the thing too, where I think with the video games, you know, that you can sell those collectibles to say, okay, I'm gonna get a pop, I'm gonna get whatever little statue or trinket or something like that from that video game, to where they can, you know, potentially they buy whatever skin in, you know, Fortnite or something, but then they also are able to kind of buy that same thing in physical form as well, or if they 3D printed or whatever it may be, kind of thing. And so that's where I think that now IP, intellectual property, is almost the like most important thing, where, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter like whatever toys that you make. It's, you know, what IP, intellectual property, do you have to sell?
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
I mean, I think right now we are seeing toy companies being a little bit desperate, and I think these cooperation moves are out of a somewhat sense of desperation. You know, they got a bit of a lifeline with the pandemic, but that lifeline has faded. So, I'm not saying like Hasbro or Mattel are going to close or anything like that anytime soon, but some of their biggest distribution partner or second biggest, whatever wherever Toys R Us was, just up and went away. So this is getting more difficult for them, and you just see across the board, whether it's Lego with some of their higher end sets trying to market towards more than just kids, or any of the crossover stuff. You're seeing these companies, whether it's, I think it's a mixture of a couple of things. I think it's a mixture of hey, we need to go after. I mean, any company is too smart is going to go after as broad of an audience that they can while making sense financially. And so, yeah, you have a spot in life now where kids who grew up playing with Lego, they're adults now and they still want to be into it. I mean, one of the interesting things with the Bears right now is we got this new hotshot quarterback, this rookie Caleb Williams, and people kind of poo-poo Caleb Williams because he's not like your stereotypical football player with some of his like pastimes. Like he talks about like just like hanging out in his apartment and having like Lego parties and building Legos with his friends. Like that's normal. That's kind of cool now. In certain demographics, and like older football fans are calling into the radio stations and be like, Legos, they're just angry. And I think that's the thing is like when you look at our parents' generation, with the exception of some folks who collected like trains and older GI Joe, like they gave up toys pretty quickly. Our generation didn't. Our generation, for a much bigger part, stuck with this stuff and is to a much bigger extent. And they're also willing to kind of come back to it a little bit. And so
when you say our generation, do you mean 80s and 90s kids? Yeah,
I mean the late Gen Xers, and then the late Gen Xers and beyond.
And millennials.
So kids born in like the second half of the 70s and after that. So we're much more open to playing with toys. You look at how much just media that's out there that's going after that kind of nerd geek demographic, whether it's all the Marvel stuff, how many things on Netflix and Hulu and all this stuff that's going after that demographic. It's a big market, and so people are trying to tap into it. But I also think these toy companies are trying to say like, all right, we need to grab these folks' attention in as many ways as possible. And so that's why you're seeing Ninja Turtle, He-Man crossover toys. Because a dad's going to walk down the toy aisle and be like, wait, what the heck is this? It's a Ninja Turtle in He-Man armor, and he's fighting alongside He-Man and against Skeletor and Shredder. Like, okay,
I think the Ninja Turtles helps Mattel more than it helps Playmates and Ninja Turtles. Like, I think it's more of a, hey, we need to make He-Man cool again. We need, what can we do to make He-Man, relevant? Let's mix them with Ninja Turtles. That's why I think it's only a matter of time when the next year and a half to 2 years, we're going to get a He-Man Transformers crossover.
Sure.
I'm calling it now.
They're one of the few ones that they haven't crossed over, so
Yeah,
sure.
we've seen the bridge between Mattel and Hasbro has been built. That went two ways. So we got, when that announcement came out, it was Transformer Hot Wheels and Barbie Monopoly was the
Monopoly. All right, so Monopoly and Potato Head have a long history of going outside of Hasbro to get licenses. So I don't count those two. Those have a long history of getting licenses from other toy companies. Lego Monopoly. That stuff has existed for a long time. Like Potato Head, Star Wars, and stuff like Potato Head Kiss and all that stuff. We haven't seen a Potato Head He-Man figure, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get one in the next 2 years. Right? I wouldn't be surprised. surprised if there's a Comic-Con exclusive Potato Head, Scare Glow. I think the time has come for all egos to be put aside, and for everyone to try. Yes, you're right, Phil. It's time for everyone to throw everything at the wall and make as much money as possible before this generation of kids grows up. And when they grow up, they're going to be going to the electronics section to buy video games for their nieces and nephews and grandkids and kids rather than buying toys. So get them to love the brands now so that in 20, 30 years, they're walking down the aisle. Oh, look, here's a fighting game of Transformers versus Ninja Turtles. That's awesome. I want that.
So one thing I'll say is I don't feel like any of these companies are really thinking more than 5 years out on anything. I don't think that they care about 20 years from now at all, or 10 years out from now or anything. That they are just like, what can we get out in the next few years to maximize our profit, reduce our costs, like you said, and maximize profit on this. And so I think that that's part of the thing you're seeing now is that they just, I don't know. There's probably been enough turnover at these different companies that, I mean, who knows if, they are even poaching as much as they used to. It's probably a different generation as some of the people have left or, retired or passed on.
There is nobody left on the Transformers team from my time there.
Right.
There's a few people that still work at the company, but they don't work on Transformers. So, I guess it just goes to show that, different teams have different ideas. Believe me, when I was there were discussions. Hey, 20 years from now, how's this going to look? How's this going to, what are we making now that 20 years from now, someone will say, I want a masterpiece version of that.
Right.
Or now I want a missing link version of that. Right.
And I do think that they have to be looking, they have analysts that are looking at this over the long term. And I think it does come back to what you talked about, Lucas, in terms of IP, because IP is going to be important, because if this stuff, moves beyond toys and goes into more video games or goes into, virtual reality, metaverse, kind of things, well, hey, that's when the IP is still going to make you money.
It could be a Ready Player One situation, Phil.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah,
where
absolutely.
Someone joins the metaverse and they could have, hey, I want my avatar skin to be a Ninja Turtle skin, but I want to have the He-Man loincloth, and I want to have Optimus Prime's Energon axe, and I want to have Laura Croft's original square boobs, square triangle boobs. You know? And I want my eyes to look like Bluey.
So again, man, that's where it is, comes back to this idea of IP being so important in this day and age, because IT allows you to create, IP allows you to create content by owning that intellectual property.
Then licensing it out. So could we get to a point, Phil, where Hasbro says, you know what, Super 7, you know what, NECA, it's cheaper for us to let you make Transformers. Do you think we're going to get to that point, Phil?
That / Takara, I think it's definitely a possibility. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying it's a possibility.
I wouldn't have, even a couple years ago or a year ago, I would have said, no, there's no way. But that deal they did for Power Rangers, like, after that, I was like, you know what? Like, I could see them just being like, hey, man, it's just easier for us to license it all out. And, whoever these factories in Asia just make all the stuff for us. And, there we go.
Yep. Here's my Stranger Things Skeletor Demigorgon. There's no reason for this to exist.
No.
There's no this only exists for Mattel to get a piece of the Stranger Things stuff, which is why it comes with the Demigorgon instead of 11. Yeah.
I mean, this is a much more boring version of Hasbro doing the same thing. Like Code Red was Hasbro trying to do the same thing, but I mean that Demogorgon Skeletor 2-pack looks phenomenal on a shelf. Like I saw that the other day at Target and was like, holy crap, this looks cool. I'm not going to buy it, but you know, it looks darn neat, and certainly looks more enticing to a Stranger Things fan than this, you know,
right. So
yellow turd.
So now Stranger Things, talking about owning IP, they now have a Mattel crossover and they have a Hasbro crossover, right? You know, like I'm thinking about the Ninja Turtle vehicle that's coming out for Transformers, and how Ninja Turtles has a Transformers crossover. They have a whole He-Man line that I would say might be a little more popular right now than just regular He-Man toys, right? What else has Ninja Turtles done?
Karate
Ninja Turtles,
Kid.
Stranger Things.
They
right?
got Ninja Turtles.
Karate Kid.
They got Ninja Turtles WWE guys coming out and later this year.
They do?
Yes. Roman Reigns is Shredder. Rey Mysterio, Kofi Kingston are two of the turtles.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not. They've got it. They showed it off at the WrestleMania, sort of like, you know, wrestling con, whatever they had before WrestleMania.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Nickelodeon trying to get their money's worth for what they paid for Ninja Turtles.
But again, that's where these guys come up with, like, it's like, what's the way that we get the collector to buy another, you know, Shredder or Ninja Turtles or Optimus Prime or whatever? And you're like, you know, I mean, I don't know, how many Optimus Prime figures do we own, right? Like, I mean, collectively, like, it's a lot. You know, like, what, Rick, you're probably, you know, hundreds, right?
Yeah, 100. I mean, I have a whole giant display case of just Optimus Prime.
And so, like, you might be sitting there saying to yourself, like, there's no way I'm going to buy another Optimus Prime. And then Mattel goes, hey, what about a all die-cast Hot Wheels version? You're like, all right, sign me up. There we go.
You know what? And I'm going to buy the non-transforming Hot Wheels, too. That's what I wanted. But then Mattel's like, nah, F you, buddy. We're making a Transformer. We're making Mattel, the arch rival of Hasbro and Kenner, has made a transforming item that is as desirable as that missing link. Think about that. Like, just Hasbro didn't make Missing Link. Hasbro didn't make that Hot Wheel. Hasbro's not making Power Rangers anymore because they screwed that whole thing up.
Oh,
really bad. That's a whole other show. We have the Hasbro Knight Rider Transformers supposedly in the works, right?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So I can see there'll be a talking car version that'll come out of Comic-Con that has Peter Cullen's voice in it then.
Sure.
Calling it, right? Matter of, you know, how long until we get a Transforming Enterprise?
I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen that before. I mean, they had the Star Wars Transformers, you know, throughout the years, but they've never really partnered with Star Trek.
Star Trek, I mean, their market for toys has never been gigantic. I mean, you had Playmates with the license in the 90s, and they churned out toys of everything back then. But
yeah,
the Star
every
Trek
figure from every scene of every show. You know, it was like Star Wars back in the day. Oh, here's a guy in the background of Cloud City running with an ice cream maker. Yeah, there's 2 different figures of him. Sure. Oh, this character was in one episode of The Next Generation. Yeah, we made a toy of that. Now, now there's a whole bunch of Star Wars characters that haven't even gotten toys yet.
Oh, I was gonna say, circling back to that Mattel, the Hot Wheels Optimus Prime, right? Like, whenever we saw the news about that and that coming out, like, that was the one thing when I saw the price point, I was like, man, this is kind of be a tough sell. Like, is this gonna be one of the first things that doesn't sell out and sits a little bit? And it was like, I know Hot Wheels collectors are pretty crazy and whatever, but like $80 for, for the figure. And then, like you said, it goes up on sale. And, I don't know how big the run is, like how many were out there. But man, it sells out in under an hour. Like, it's just kind of somewhat surprising to me. Like,
and it was 92. If you were just buying one, it was 92 with shipping, so it wasn't even just $80.
Yeah, I bought 3. And right now they're going for about $1.65 on eBay. That's all the Hot Wheels and Transformers collectors that didn't get it when it went up for pre-order.
Yeah. I wish Hasbro would have checked my work schedule first. We had a meeting.
Well, I am curious, like, if this is going to be a limited collector's item, or if it, will it be a little bit more like the Optimus Prime Lego, where, it was pretty readily available, and I don't know if it still is, but
it's still at every Target, that Optimus Prime Lego. So I made a miscalculation with the Optimus Prime. I said that thing's going to sell out. It has not. Hot Wheels, I wasn't so sure about, but it sold out. But they got the tooling, so now they can do animated colors. They can do a black version. They can do, here comes the Hot Wheels all gold chrome, all gold silver, right? Here comes the Hot Wheels green Optimus Prime, heavens forbid. So I can see Mattel pumping this for as much as it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I think what we would probably get would be another version of this that's not as chromey looking, not as metallic. That's going to be more of just like a candy apple red, versus this sort of like inaugural version of Optimus from Mattel that's going to look extra special. So I think you'll still be able to get this toy at probably a lower price with a not as nice of a paint job and not as nice of packaging.
Yeah, but I think we'll be seeing this toy in lots of different colors. And when did the Optimus Lego come out? Was it a year or was it 2 years ago?
It came out before the last TFCon Chicago, so 2 years ago.
All right, and we're only now getting the second Lego Transformers, right?
But I think that was something that I think Lego probably wanted to test the waters a little bit to see how well it sold before they committed a team to engineer another one.
Yeah, I could see that. It was a while between the Friends Lego sets, so okay, all right, I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah.
Potential crossovers surprised me. What do you think? What do you think is out there? I said Star Trek Transformers. I'm calling He-Man Transformers. Lucas, what do you think's out there?
Yeah, this is tough. I'm trying to think like what's left that we would really want to see. Um,
I mean, think about what we never thought we would want. Did we ever think Knight Rider? It makes sense, but we never
right.
thought we'd see it.
Yeah.
We
I
never
mean, I
thought
could.
we'd see Back to the Future, right?
I mean, I could
Or
see like an
Ghostbusters.
A team. Well, and that's one. I mean, they've done a lot of vans, so I could see
There's,
that.
there it is. It's Pity Fultron. Fultron.
Oh my God, with the gold chain.
That's right. He comes with a gold chain, and Mr. T's at Comic-Con autographing them. The Comic-Con version comes with a little gold chain to put around the neck of the figure.
I mean, Zaldron just brought up, what about Gundam and Transformers, some sort of crossover? I mean,
Now you're talking Bandai. That's, ooh.
But I feel like Takara's kind of doing that, right? Like with that new line they're doing, right? What was that called again?
Oh, jeez, I already forgot about that. I mean,
Yeah.
they might. I mean, again, this might be one of those things where they've done the model kits through Flame Toys. Those had modest success. I think people who are used to building Bandai kits were not happy with the building experience of the Flame Toys kits. So I could see Hasbro licensing Bandai to do a Optimus Prime Gundam kit. I mean, it's going to look like Optimus, just like the Lego set does. But then could we get like a Transformers Hasbro Gundam Wing mech? Because there are Gundams that transform, they just kind of suck at it.
But Bandai could probably do as good a job making a transforming. I mean, all you would be getting is the Transformers name on it, because Bandai is very capable of making a transforming figure on their own.
Yeah, I just think Hasbro's better at it in terms of a mass retail thing.
All right. I like Lucas's A-Team. Not sure I'm sold on the Gundam thing because of Bandai.
Simpsons. You could have the family, Homer's pink car. You could have the Homer. We've made jokes before of how many, different Transformers cars look like the Homer. You could get a transforming Homer car.
Phil, I could see that being on CNN. I can see CNN doing a folks, it's Jeannie Most. Jeannie Most is like, remember The Simpsons when Homer's brother had him design a car called the Homer? Well, now you can own it, but it transforms. I can absolutely see the Homer.
And that's what I think. That's what these companies are really trying to clamor for. Whether it's Robeson, where there's the Hot Wheels, like they want that press release. They want that. They want the person who doesn't go to the toy aisle to know about this, or they want the person who goes into the toy aisle, just for holidays and birthdays to see them and be like, holy crap, they made this thing. I mean, we're at the point right now where it's this is the fanboy 8, 9, 10-year-old playground discussion of, wouldn't it be cool if so and so like crossed over with so and so, or so and so fought so and so, and like we're getting that now. And I'll come back, Rick, to your discussion of what other crossovers do we want to see or think we'll see. I want to make a point though about, when was the comic book industry suffering the most? It was the mid and late 90s.
The 90s, yeah.
And what did we see happen during that time? We saw
they
Marvel
started selling off
DC.
IPs.
Well, they started selling off IPs because people started wanting to make movies off it, because suddenly you had movies like Power Rangers and Blade making money. But we also saw Marvel and DC collaborate multiple times during the 90s and early 2000s.
Amalgam Comics.
Exactly. Marvel versus DC, Amalgam Comics. A little bit later on, you had JLA and Avengers. And nowadays, now that both comic book companies are pretty darn healthy, it's like, no, that wall is thick and solid between those two entities.
One thing,
But you know what? Don't say that, Phil, because who owns Marvel?
Disney.
Disney. They have Disney Plus. Who owns DC?
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers. They also own HBO, which they have HBO Max. What's happening later this year? Disney Plus and HBO Max are merging into one streaming service. Presumably, they're going to call it cable.
I have not heard that.
So Hulu, Disney Plus, and Max are going to combine into one. And then Netflix and Paramount Plus and another one are going to are combining, where you pay one subscription price and you get all of them.
So the only thing I've heard about that is that Comcast is bundling those themselves. So Comcast for Comcast subscribers is putting those together as a bundle. I have not heard that those companies are merging. I might be
not
wrong.
Merging, but working together to offer that.
Right. So you know, that's just on a different level versus, you know, sharing IP. You know, so I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I think this is more.
We're in the streaming wars right now, right? We're in the, we're in the streaming wars. So it makes sense that as more sports goes online to all these different streaming outlets, that they want to consolidate. So, you want hockey? Then you need this bundle here with Disney Plus, Hulu, and Warner Bros. Oh, you like baseball? Then you need the Peacock, Paramount, AMC Plus bundle, whatever.
Oh, don't forget Roku.
Roku, yeah. Roku and Pornhub and they're all combined into one.
Yeah, I only said Roku because they have a deal with MLB. The Pornhub doesn't have any deal that I'm aware of, but you never know.
Rick would know more about that, right?
Yes.
I, of course, wouldn't, because the only reason I go to that site is to find out how to get away from that site.
Right. Okay.
I think they're actually going to block that site in my state here pretty shortly, so there we go.
Oh, you're going to follow Texas'
Lucas.
suit?
That's the America that you live in. That's awful.
It's good times.
Absolutely horrible that you live in a state that wants to block you from accessing pornography.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
But circling back to crossovers, the actual topic for this evening, you know, I'm surprised that we haven't seen more crossover with Hasbro IP. So, you know, Transformers, Star Wars, we haven't seen anything from that in a while. We haven't seen Transformers, Power Rangers, or
I talked about why we can't do Star Wars. Now, it may have changed now that Disney owns Star Wars. But the reason whenever there was a transforming Star Wars toy line that they had to turn into Star Wars characters is because if they turned into Transformers characters, then Lucasfilm would claim ownership over that character. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't have the TIE Fighters turn into the Seekers because Lucasfilm would then say, well, we now own that design.
Right.
But with it being Disney owned, doesn't mean we can't get a proper Transformers Star Wars crossover. I think it's only a matter of time before we see a Marvel Star Wars crossover in entertainment somehow, be it comic book or animation or something. So, I mean, we've seen other, you know, there's the Predator is making its rounds, right? You know, we just had Predator versus Wolverine. Now we're getting Predator versus Black Panther. Mm-hmm. So who's to say we won't have a Predator Predacon, you know, coming soon, or a Xenomorph Megatron, right? Alien Queen Soundwave and Laserbeak and Buzzsaw and Ravage are all the drones. And
yeah, I'd stab someone in the eye for that.
Yeah. So, you know, where's the Family Guy crossover? We need Brian Griffin's Prius.
Yeah. That's the only vehicle that comes to mind.
Where's Alf? We need Alf versus G.I. Joe.
Gordon Shumway?
Yeah. The G.I. Joes crash land on the planet Melmac.
I think that might be more of like a Void Rivals crossover there.
That's right. Cheetor crash lands on Melmac, and Melmacians eat cats.
Oh, my God. He's just running for his life.
It's all the cat characters. It's Ravage, it's Tiger Hawk, it's Tigatron, Cheetor, right?
Yeah.
I do love that, Rick brings up Alf, and somehow, Phil, you happen to have an Alf figure within arm's reach. That's great.
Yeah.
Where's our dinosaur crossover, right?
Earl Sinclair?
I saw that too, yeah.
That's right. That's right. Grimlock as Earl Sinclair.
Oh, God. I do think, again, this is just this. I would, coming back to the idea of how much of a long view are these toy companies taking, I definitely think there's executives and analysts there who are trying to take a really long view on this and saying, like, we need to, as a toy industry, we need to work together to kind of save our own skins.
Maybe we're just in the age of the crossover. Thanks to Avengers. Thanks to the MCU, we are now in the multiverse where things can cross over. And it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. It's just things can cross over easily. Right? You can have Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland together. Why can't you have Street Fighter Transformers? Right? Why isn't there
God, I forgot they even made those.
Yeah. Why is there no Mortal Kombat G.I. Joe classified figures? Right? Who's to say it's not coming? I mean, NECA did lose the license to certain brands now that Disney owns them. So who's to say there's not going to be a Cobra Commander Xenomorph? The Xenomorphs of Cobra.
NECA lost the license? I thought Super 7 did.
Oh, was it Super 7?
Super 7 lost the Disney license, yeah.
Okay, but thank you. All right. Who's to say these things aren't coming?
I mean, I think what we're seeing right now is a time frame where just about anything is possible. The toys that are coming out now, like as a kid, kind of who would have thunk?
We've got 4 different Masterpiece skids. Anything is possible. In a world where we have 4 Masterpiece skids, a Masterpiece Black Arachnia, anything is possible.
Masterpiece RC.
Masterpiece RC. Anything is possible except reissuing Masterpiece Dinobot.
Why is that not possible?
It's just not really. It's not possible. Because that's the one figure I need. So it's not possible.
Oh,
it's not gonna happen.
Okay. I could see that. Yep.
Yeah.
That tracks.
You just gotta stalk those Facebook pages, Rick. There's gonna be people who are there are people every day on those Facebook groups who are purging their collection because real life has crept up on them.
I'm patient. Anything else we need to cover tonight, Lucas?
I'm trying to think. Is there any new news or anything that we didn't cover? Any recent stories?
I do think in third party world we've got that third party company. I don't remember all the details, but basically doing a missing link Grimlock. And Paul, I'm sorry, Rick, you and Paul were going pretty hard and heavy in terms of the debate
I don't know where
on that.
Paul gets off, saying that third party doing missing link is the nail in their coffin. No, the whole point of third party is doing stuff that people want to buy immediately, right? So that's why third party got away from Chug and went more to Masterpiece. That's why they might be leaving more Masterpiece now and going to Missing Link. The Link wars have begun, right?
I mean, I think that, Paul, like, essentially, if they start using the same exact designs and like molds of the original G1 toys, like, I could see where there's more of an argument that could be made that it's a knockoff of a Hasbro product. Like, I think that that's probably what the argument he's trying to make, that it's closer to some type of infringement.
Well, I'm going to argue that it's not, because you can't trademark parts to form a larger item in that respect. Non-mechanical parts can't be trademarked, right?
Okay.
So, like, you could trademark an engine because that's a mechanical item, right?
Mm.
But can't you
parts
copyright the final design?
But the final design transforms by standing up and the arms come out. This one,
Right.
The arms come out, they rotate, its elbows, the hands are hinged, the neck's a rocker joint, it's got rocker feet, right? That's something different.
I understand where you're coming from.
And they're not using the same tools. They're making all new tools. I mean,
I think I tend to agree more with your argument that you made the other day in the chat, though, which was the cost of enforcement on Hasbro's part would be so great that this would be that is the prohibitive factor in this, more so than the struggle in courts.
Right. Yes. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Hasbro doesn't have the staff nor the monetary resource to go to China, pay off the cops in China to shut the factory down. Meanwhile, 2 weeks later, that factory has paid off the cops that Hasbro paid off to reopen as a new factory, producing the exact same shit with the same exact workers. Right? You can't turn off that faucet. You just can't.
Right.
Yeah, it becomes whack-a-mole that, like you said, is very cost prohibitive.
Right. They're making, let's say, 3,000 units, where Hasbro, the least popular Transformer they have, they make 10,000 units. The worst selling Transformer that they make is, at least 10,000 units. Right. So, what does Hasbro get by stopping that, or by trying to stop that, other than headaches,
right,
and loss of revenue that they can put into developing other things or paying people appropriately? Can we end it there?
Sure. There you go. So, well, I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Thanks to everyone in the chat that contributed. Do want to mention book club this week is going to be Transformers 33 and 34. So that's going to be in the TF Talk Discord on Sunday night at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central.
Is that in the Marvel run?
No, that's the.
Oh, okay.
That's still the IDW.
Oh, okay.
Whatever,
gotcha.
the IDW reboot.
So I did film Cut the Tape this week, but Lucas says he's going on vacation, so he can't.
It's Memorial
Sorry,
Day weekend, Rick. So some of us are going out of town, okay?
It's my anniversary, and I still did this for you, all right?
There you go. There you go.
I'm still on my first wife.
I do, like, I really hope that your wife's in the background, like, yelling at you to, like, stop so that you can go to dinner.
When you've been married as long as I have, you'd rather be alone than go to dinner. Don't worry, you'll get there.
There you go. So, all right.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Your kids are old enough that you can leave them on their own and enjoy yourselves.
Yeah. Sure.
As long as they have the Wi-Fi password, I guess.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks, guys. We'll see everyone next week.
Bye-bye.